Governor, how important is the court's decision, and what's your reaction to it?
Well, it's a very important decision. It entails literally billions of dollars. And I don't agree with the decision, but I can understand where the court would come from. I mean, the question was whether the legislation, pension reform legislation of 2011, created a contract between the employees and the state. The court said no, it did not, because if it had constituted a contract, the contract would be protected under the due process clause in the Constitution, and the state would have had to comply with it. Therefore, the governor would have had to make the payment that he doesn't want to make. So it's an important decision that was made, but now we've got to figure out how to get out of the problem.
Getting out of the problem is key. Justice Janie Levesque, in writing for the majority, said that the state must get its financial house in order. Will the sides now, do you think, be able to sit down and negotiate an agreement?
One would hope, but I'm not overly optimistic, because the state has to come up with a substantial amount of money, which it doesn't want to raise the money through taxation, and the legislature, on behalf of the employees, feel the need to make the payment that the governor doesn't want to make. So somebody has to give.
Somebody has to give, but so this will just get kicked down the road as it has in the past into the future?
It will, until we reach a really totally fiscal disaster. The state has already had its bond rating downgraded 9 times. This is just another example of where they've not met responsibilities.
The governor appointed a special panel to study pension reform, and they took many, many months to come up with recommendations. What do you think will happen to those recommendations?
Well, the recommendations have to be passed by the legislature, and the legislature doesn't seem to be very enthusiastic about some of the provisions, because the real essence of the recommendations of the commission, which has made a good faith effort to try to deal with it, but the real result of it is to shift responsibilities off of the state for the health care system, for the pension system, onto other people. The other people, whether it be trade unions who pick up the new pension system, or localities, particularly local property taxpayers.
Do you think union leaders have an obligation to educate their members about the difficulties of a long-term solution to this problem? And how likely are they to do that when they're the people who want to keep their jobs?
Well, it all goes to what the long-term solution is. If the long-term solution is perceived of as being inequitable to workers, they have a little bit of a good argument. I mean, in fact, the workers under the pension plan of 2011 have contributed increased amounts of money. They've had decreased benefits coming, and they're saying the state didn't live up to its obligations, and therefore the state has to go forward and make the payments that they promised to make under the 2011 law.
Polls have shown that this issue doesn't really resonate with the public at large. There's not a lot of support for the union effort here. 2017, a gubernatorial election in New Jersey, likely numerous Democrats lining up to run for office. How likely are they to stick with the unions on this, or even possibly move away and abandon this issue in light of the fact that they want to run for governor?
It's going to be hard to get people to agree with the plan, because it administers pain all across the board. And it does free up the state from its responsibilities. So those who would be critical of the plan are going to say, this is just not equitable. You don't have the state making the real contribution. The state is washing its hands of responsibilities that they've undertaken in the past. So that's going to make it a very difficult campaign to conduct, because it's just so complex.
Can this be done without triggering a constitutional amendment mandating full payment?
Well, the plan that's been offered by the commission requires a constitutional amendment to guarantee all the things that are being put forward in the new plan. That's going to be very difficult to get approval of the constitutional amendment when people fully understand the dimensions of what's being advocated.
Some have talked about a special session of the legislature. Is that a good idea?
It is a very good idea, because it would give us the opportunity to focus on this problem itself and have a full participation in a discussion to fully understand what we're doing.
In the end, if the state skips another payment, what are the implications?
Well, the implications are that the bonds will continue to be downgraded, because these payments that they're making are one-shot arrangements. And if you don't you don't adhere to your responsibilities, the state's image will go down even further.
More chapters to be written, Governor Florio.
There are more chapters to be written, and it's going to be very complex, very difficult. And frankly, I'm at a loss as to really come up with a good, acceptable proposal. So the legislators and the governor have their work cut out for them.
Governor Florio, thank you very much for sharing your views.